This is Michael de Laine of the Copenhagen Voice, still at the Copenhagen University. With me is J Schellnhuber, who is director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research and is also the chief climate advisor to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. You have advertised mutually assured decarbonisation. But if we can't reach that in 10 years, do we face mutually assured destruction?
I mean, what I said was that we need to bend the global emission curves over the next 10 years, hopefully, and when have to decline in emissions probably to zero, something like zero globally by 2050. So the effort has to be done over the next 4 decades, but we have to achieve a turning point, if you like, by 2020. Yeah? Otherwise, we will probably push the planet across certain thresholds, which will not allow us to feed 9 billion people in a reasonable way within this century. Yeah? So mutually assured decarbonization simply means that if everybody waits for the others to start with transforming their industries from being more carbon friendly and does the finger pointing game, then nothing will happen, of course. So it needs a few pioneers who say, I will decarbonize whatever you do. And then the others will also get on the bandwagon and will say, okay, if US goes first, if European Union goes first, I will follow. So that is reverting, if you like, the logic of the Cold War.
Okay. Science has described the situation, the problem, but can science deliver the solutions in time?
No, I mean, natural scientists cannot deliver the solution, but we can at least tell you precisely what the timeline is, what is needed, and so on. We can even help if we are geologists, for example. We can help to explore, regions or geological formations where we can tuck away carbon dioxide if we use carbon capture and sequestration. But in principle, it's the engineers, it's the economists, it's the political scientists, and the social scientists who have to come up with what you might call a blueprint for a greener planet, with a blueprint for transforming our society towards carbon stabilization. So the natural scientists, in a sense, have done the job almost already. So if Copenhagen, this conference, would agree on a 2 degrees target, on a fair burden sharing and so on, we could finally lean back and say, now let's do something really interesting, like studying the quantum theory of an electron.
You're a mathematician, lapsed into climate researcher. Angela Merkel is a chemist. Do you feel that she is in a better position to understand the problem than other politicians without the same natural science background?
Actually, she and I both have a PhD in theoretical physics, so that is facilitating actually our conversation. Now, it is true, somebody who has been trained in the natural sciences is approaching the problem in a completely different way. So it takes me only a minute to explain a budget approach. They say we have so much left and it's the area under the curve, the integral that matters. So it makes the discussion easier, shorter, and it also makes clear to a politician who is a physicist that we cannot negotiate with nature, we cannot change the laws of nature just because we do not get our acts together. So, time is of the essence and nature is not waiting for us. This message is much easier to convey to an Angela Merkel than to, I don't know, a lawyer who has become chief of a government.
If you have to make one single recommendation to COP15, what would that be? Go for 350 ppm?
No, I would say it's the 2 degrees target because, concentration in the atmosphere do not really matter. The question is, what impacts do we want to avoid? We want to avoid the Greenland ice sheet to be destabilized, to collapse. And this has to do with the regional temperature, which again can be sort of induced from global temperature. So it's really a temperature target. So it would be do everything to to keep the door open to reach the 2 degrees goal. That would be my single. But I may add a second recommendation. I think what is really at stake is a clash between North and South, really. Unless we come up with a scheme, given that we want to hold the 2 degrees line, which is, in a sense, reconciling the interests of the North and the South. That means, unless we do not come up with a scheme which is fair and just and equitable, so it's the ethics that matter, then we will have no success here.
Are you optimistic?
I'm somehow optimistic that we will get a step forward. I do not think this will be a complete failure. But the question is, how big will the stride be? Will it be big enough, actually? And I think what is at stake is that we start a process which can be reviewed and so on, and which will accelerate over the next years. So if Copenhagen itself just makes a moderate step, but lays the foundation for the next big step, then it's fine, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we can achieve that here.
And the next COP15, COP16 will be in Berlin in a year's time, I understand. Is that correct?
I thought it will be in Mexico City, but I do not know.
I don't know. Okay.
Anyway, there will be a COP16, and it will just be another step on the road, but we know that we have to get our acts together before 2012, because that is when the Kyoto Protocol expires. So we do not have much time left in any way. Okay?
J Schellnhuber, thank you much indeed.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry.